Hi, dear friends. Greetings. This video is about how I manage my diabetes. While I am not a doctor, I have been managing my diabetes for 8 years after losing my pancreas and kidneys due to my diabetes, and would like to share my journey with you so that maybe someone else could learn from my experience and make changes to lifestyle before it's too late. And if my story helps even one person take their health more seriously, it's worth telling. Disclaimer. This information is shared for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. It should not be used to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any medical condition. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before making any medical decisions or changes to your health routine. Now that the disclaimer is out of the way, if you find this video helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support is truly appreciated, and thanks in advance. Here is my journey with diabetes. Up until my 40s, I had no idea what it was. I never really gave diabetes a second thought, not in my younger years anyway, and just followed the basic doctor's advice. No one ever took the time to explain what's diabetes, what causes it, or what it could do to me in the long run. Over the years, I've seen many doctors. Most were in a rush, treating symptoms, adjusting medications, and moving on to the next patient. Treating my chart versus me. But out of all those years, there were 3 doctors who truly stood out. 3 who really cared, who took the time to sit down with me, explain things, and work with me to manage my disease. Those 3 quite literally helped save my life. And that's why I'm here today, able to share this story. One thing I've learned the hard way. Most patients, including myself back then, don't even know what questions to ask of the doctors unless we educate ourselves. And unfortunately, many doctors don't have the time or maybe the patience to walk us through the details. And we are often left to figure out medications, instructions, side effects, and lifestyle changes on our own. That's why I always tell people, keep looking for a doctor who truly cares and can chat with you about the disease with you. Find someone who treats you versus your chart only. Now here is how things went wrong for me. My primary care doctor didn't refer me to an endocrinologist or a nephrologist until 15 years after my initial diabetes diagnosis. By then, I had already lost nearly half of my pancreas and kidney function. One doctor wanted to inset a stent in my heart artery for high blood pressure and palpitations. One doctor did not diagnose my COVID for a month that put me through horrible pneumonia, where I almost lost my life. And no one had ever explained me how to use short-acting insulin properly, such as taking it before every meal, or what to do for low-sugar hypoglycemia episodes. Doctors are human, and to err is human. So L started taking my meds without fail, monitored my glucose, watched my diet, and began an exercise routine. Still, by the time I hit 70, my kidneys and pancreas failed, and I had to go on dialysis. And it was a hard chapter, but it wasn't the end of my story. Because I was blessed with a new kidney and a second chance at life. The transplant, which I received 8 years ago. And how I am maintaining my new kidney is another chapter for later. Doctors, due to their packed schedules, they rarely have time to educate patients about prevention or long-term management. Unfortunately, most doctors only treat what's in front of them in the moment. Also, ask your primary care doctor for a referral to an endocrinologist. In my case, my primary care physician didn't refer me to a specialist until 15 years had passed, after I had already lost about 50% of my pancreas and kidney function. Eventually, one doctor noticed my kidneys failing with consistently high blood glucose levels and A1C, a key hemoglobin marker that reflects the average blood sugar over 3 months. By then, it was too late for a cure. However, the disease could still be managed through a healthy lifestyle, never missing medications, regular glucose monitoring, eating nutritious, controlled meals, and following an appropriate exercise routine. I also found that although genetics can play a role, diabetes is often triggered or worsened by excessive consumption of sugary, oily, and fatty junk foods, as well as a sedentary and undisciplined lifestyle. Doctors say that diabetes usually begin developing at least 5 years before any symptoms show up. That was certainly true in my case. Like many others, I spent years consuming starchy, sugary, fatty, and oily foods with hardly any vegetables on my plate. Exercise was rare, and regular checkups weren't a priority. What I didn't understand was how critical it is to stay active and eat right, not just for energy, but to keep our blood sugar in check. We ignore those early signs, we skip the blood tests, and meanwhile, the body is quietly slipping into a dangerous state. But by the time I reached age 70, my pancreas and kidneys had completely failed, and I had to begin dialysis, nearly 30 years after my first symptoms appeared. Thankfully, I received a kidney transplant 8 years ago. What I learned later is that diabetics often feel hungry all the time, even after eating. Why? Because the sugar we consume isn't being properly converted into energy. That's what high blood sugar means, too much sugar floating around, while the cells and organs that need that energy are left starving. Over time, they begin to weaken, and eventually start failing. Here's something that really opened my eyes, that 100% of the starches and carbs, carbohydrates we eat, and about 60% of the meats, dairy, and nuts are all converted into blood glucose, the sugar that fuels our body. And only about 40% of meat gets turned into protein through a process called glycogenesis. So when we overload our system with food, especially the wrong kinds, our pancreas is forced to produce more insulin to handle all that sugar. That's where the real trouble starts. The natural balance between blood sugar and insulin gets thrown off. The body begins storing sugar as fat instead of burning it to energy. And as our cells remain undernourished, they begin to break down. This imbalance can lead to a whole range of complications, and believe me, I have lived through many of them, such as high blood pressure, fatty liver, neuropath, that unbearable needle-like stabbing sensation in the hands, legs, and feet, gout, or arthritis, especially in the toes and lower joints from uric acid crystal buildup, chronic inflammation, and fatigue. It's a chain reaction. And it all stems from one core issue: too much sugar and not enough balance. That's why it's said, excess of anything is bad. And diabetes truly is the mother of all diseases. How our body turns food into energy. A simple analogy. To better understand how the body processes food, I often compare it to how a car engine works. It may sound strange, but let's see how. In a car, the carburetor must mix fuel and air in just the right ratio. When it's balanced, the fuel ignites, pistons move, the crankshaft turns, and the wheels roll forward. When air-fuel ratio no good, engine get flooded with fuel. The engine stalls. No spark, no power, no motion. No nothing. The human body works the same way. In our case, blood sugar is the fuel, and insulin is the spark. We need the perfect ratio of sugar to insulin to convert our food sugar into usable energy. But in diabetes, our blood gets flooded with sugar. The pancreas, trying to keep up, producing more insulin. Over time, this overwhelms the natural balance. The body becomes less efficient at turning sugar into energy, and eventually, the pancreas becomes exhausted, unable to produce insulin at all. This breakdown doesn't happen overnight. For me, it took 30 years. Eventually, both my pancreas and kidneys failed, putting me on very painful dialysis. How I managed to keep my blood sugar and A1C in control for 8 years. Yes, the good news is that diabetes can be managed. It may not be curable, but with the right habits and mindset, it is possible to live active and healthy. I always follow my doctor's instructions and never miss a dose. Consistency is key. Your body needs steady support to stay in balance. I also schedule regular checkups so I can catch any changes early and stay on top of things. Over the years, I've learned to focus on fiber-rich, nutrient-dense foods. My diet includes green, colorful veggies, gains carbs, and fruits in moderation. All kinds of berries, loaded with antioxidants and low in sugar. and salads with heart-healthy toppings, and nuts like walnuts, pumpkin, flax, sunflower, and chia seeds, etc., rich in minerals and healthy fat. And fish, especially the ones known to be good for diabetics. Just search online for the top 5. Salmon, sardines, and mackerel are often on that list. Exercise has been a game changer for me. I make sure to stay active daily, or at least 3 times a week. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can find countless YouTube videos on yoga, walking routines, or home workouts. Start small. I began with just 5 minutes a day, and over time I worked to 10, then 15, and now 30 minutes. Walking and yoga have worked best for me. Walking is one of the most natural and effective ways to convert blood sugar into energy. In fact, a 20-minute walk or home bike workout can lower my blood sugar by 100 points, and the effect often lasts all day. If you can walk in a park-like setting, even better. It becomes something to look forward to. Why it works? Here's what I've come to understand. Exercise wakes up your metabolism. Without physical activity, that glucose has nowhere to go, especially if your insulin is low or ineffective, and that leads to all kinds of complications. By staying active, eating mindfully, and being consistent with medication and care, I have been able to manage my diabetes and kidney transplant. Let's look at what metabolism do for us. In addition to pancreas and insulin, metabolism is a process that our body also uses to convert food into energy. It's a collection of chemical reactions happening in our cells that keep us alive and functioning. Metabolism is the highest in childhood, as we sweat while idle. Metabolism plays a role in many key functions, including 1. Breaking down food. It turns carbohydrates, fats, and proteins into energy. Energy production. That energy powers everything from breathing to moving to thinking. Building and repairing cells. It helps build muscle, replace cells, and heal wounds. 4. Regulating body functions. It controls things like body temperature, hormone levels, and digestion. Now let's see how I manage my low blood sugar or hypoglycemia. A dangerously low blood glucose level is generally considered to be below 60. Diabetes can cause low blood sugar attacks due to poor eating and not monitoring daily blood glucose levels. Glucose level under 60 points can cause severe hypoglycemia, which is a medical emergency and may lead to confusion or disorientation, loss of consciousness, seizures, coma, and death. Mild to moderate hypoglycemia, glucose below 70, is considered low and should be treated right away to prevent it from becoming severe. Symptoms can include shakiness, sweating, rapid heartbeat, hunger, irritability or anxiety, weaknesses, and fatigue. What to do for hypoglycemia attack for diabetics? If blood sugar drops below 70 points, eat or drink fast-acting carbs, e.g. glucose tablets, apple juice, or regular soda, and recheck in 15 minutes, and if still low, repeat the process. Thank God, since I am diabetic, had only one hypoglycemia event in my life. Now, let's check the tools to monitor your glucose levels. Keeping track of your blood sugar is essential for managing diabetes effectively. The most common way to monitor your blood sugar at home is by using a glucometer. Test your fasting blood glucose level first thing in the morning before breakfast. For better insight, it's also important to test 2 to 3 hours after each meal. This helps you understand how different foods affect your sugar levels. Ideal post-meal readings are generally between 100 and 150 points. Keeping your daily average blood glucose below 150 often correlates with an A1C of around 7%, which is considered good diabetes control. 2. Freestyle Libre. No finger pricking required. For those looking for a more modern, painless way to monitor glucose, the Freestyle Libre is a continuous glucose monitor, CGM, that tracks your blood sugar 24/7. It works with a smartphone app and displays your real-time glucose levels, trends, daily averages, and historical charts. It's a convenient and smart tool, especially for those who want to avoid finger pricks. Ask your doctor for a prescription if you're interested. Many insurance plans cover it. 3. A1C lab testing, every 3 months. The hemoglobin A1C test is a lab test ordered by your doctor. It reflects your average blood glucose over the past 3 months. An A1C between 5.1% and 5.9% is a warning sign. You could be prediabetic and should consult an endocrinologist. An A1C of 6.0% or higher typically indicates diabetes and calls for a treatment plan. In summary, as you can see, managing diabetes is no easy task. I test my blood glucose before every meal so I can adjust both my food intake and insulin dose accordingly. Occasionally, I also check it 2 to 3 hours after meals to get a better picture of how my body is responding. I pay close attention to not just the quantity, but also the quality of my food, and avoid sugary, starchy foods and drinks. I have found that eating more fish helps keep my sugar levels stable. No major spikes, just steady energy. Hope this is a useful video for you. Please don't forget to subscribe, and sharing will be highly appreciated. Thanks and have a nice day.